Your hips house the most powerful muscles in your entire body, but sitting all the time made our glutes weak. Because of that, every time we sit, walk, or pick up objects, we tend to compensate with our low back or knees, leading to low back pain and discomfort. Learning to use the hip muscles is the key to preventing numerous injuries, pain, or discomfort. This is the all-around posterior chain workout for strong hip extension that goes beyond building bigger glutes or increasing your deadlift. It trains functional strength, the ability to use the muscles and strength gained in real-life situations. Finally, you're able to run faster with a longer stride, lift heavier objects, and stand straight up with no back pain. One of the 4 workouts I would do weekly is a hip extension posterior chain based workout that's emphasizing glute strength and teaching the ability to extend through your hip. Why? Because these are the most powerful muscles in our hip that help us with numerous activities from standing up to walking to hiking to having a longer stride. The hamstring, the glutes, and of course the surrounding hip muscles. This is like an all-in-one posterior chain workout, which has also focused on muscle-centric, muscle-building type of exercise, also one for gaining strength, and also 1 or 2 for functionality, learning the ability to use your hip extensors in real-life movement. It's not specifically designed for maximal strength, which would obviously be loading the deadlift, or for hypertrophy, which is the leg curls. It's rather an all-in-one and all-arounder posterior chain training for the lower body. When hip strength is taken care of and is developed, then your knees, your spine, and your hips take in less pressure overall. You are both training for strength, the deadlift, for muscle hypertrophy, the leg curl, for single leg stability, single leg deadlift, and functionality, learning how to use hip extension, the hip dominant lunge. Beyond a light cardio and mobility, which I'd always do before a workout, I have a couple of warm-ups set in this one that are mainly focusing on activating or co-activating the core, adductors, and hip extensors like hamstrings. I typically do 3 to 4 progressive sets of leg curls to wake up the hamstrings. Then I'd do a couple of Copenhagen planks with emphasis on hip extension and adduction, stopping at the upper part to really squeeze and feel the inner thigh. Sometimes I'd substitute the machine curls for skate leg curls or single leg hip bridge, with the same goal of activating the hamstring before deadlifting. The full training is comprised of 4 exercises: the deadlift, a hip dominant lunge, single leg deadlift, and single leg deadlift heavy ball pickup. The main compound exercise here is the deadlift. This is the one that obviously targets the full body, particularly your glutes, hamstrings, and back, and it's the one that shall be done most intensely, reserving a spot for if there's one exercise that should tire you, this is the one. It activates your hip extensors, the crucial muscles that prevent the load building up on your knees, spine, and hips over time, which also tend to lead to overuse and injury. They strengthen your hip extensor muscles so you can carry that force through them, not the joints. I'd warm up by doing 2 lighter sets, slowly progressing to my goal weight. If training for strength, I'd aim for more than 85% rep max to about 3 to 5 reps, typically with lowering the bar. If training for hypertrophy, I'd decrease the load to 65 or 80% rep max and try Romanian deadlifts, focusing on muscle-centric execution, meaning you really aim to build up the tension in the back of the legs, the glutes, and hamstrings. I'd do about 3 to 4 sets of deadlifts. Next up, we have the hip dominant lunge, where you're trying to pick a heavy ball from a lunge and go up, extending and pushing off through your hip. Although it's a lunge, it's made in such a way that predominantly activates the glutes, the hip extensors, instead of training the quads. If you lunge by just lowering your body straight down with a straight back, then you're mainly training the quads of your rear leg, with which there's nothing wrong. However, the goal of this training is hitting the posterior part of the leg. And also, as a movement pattern, I believe people should use hip dominance more. That's because the hip joint and hip extensors have that much more potential for carrying weight and producing force compared to something like the knees or the quads. So slightly wider positioning than the regular lunge, this is for stability. Lowering down is done by slightly twisting your torso towards the front leg and distributing most, 80% of your weight on the front dominant leg. This way the hip carries the weight and the glutes are activated when executing the movement. The focus is on strongly pushing off with the front leg as if we were to push down and back to activate the glutes and extend up fully, squeezing the glute at the end. On your way up, just roll up the ball on your shoulder using as little force in your arms as possible. The point is for the hips to explode carrying the ball on the shoulder using the least amount of resistance to roll the ball up. This move teaches you how to do a full step up using hip extension, your glutes instead of the knees. I'd do around 2 sets of 10 to 20 reps per side, not really counting, just feeling until I can do it with correct technique. If done properly, your legs feel similar to like hiking for an hour after just 2 sets. If you already eat clean, lift weights, and wear blue blockers, is there a way to optimize even further? Probably yes. Answer our 33 question quiz and see how filled your battery is from 0 to 100. Anything below 90% still has some extra energy left in the tank to be unlocked. The best thing? The quiz gives you 4 high return on investment areas to improve further. We've packed the last 4 years of research on human health and performance optimization into a simple digital product. Recharge, 11 science-backed ways to go from tired to energetic. A digital set of an ebook, 12 high-quality videos explaining context, and a habit tracker. Scan the QR code or links in the description. See you on the other side. The third one is a single leg deadlift, and obviously for a lot of people with non-specific back pain, instead of just loading them up on a deadlift, for some people that doesn't work, so the best way to actually train the glutes and hamstrings where you really don't have to tire your nervous system and lift a lot of weight is the single leg deadlift. It literally activates the glutes and the hamstrings so good, while the load that you need to lift is half or less than on the typical deadlift. It's more geared towards stability, single leg balance, but also muscle hypertrophy instead of gaining maximal strength as you would with the deadlift. I'd pick up lighter weights in my first set, then start the real deal in the second set with 2 20-kilogram dumbbells. Starting at full extension in the hip, I make sure to squeeze my glutes and slowly extend the knee, then slowly lower down by dropping the hips back, feeling how tension is building up in the glutes and hamstrings as I slowly descend down. This eccentrically loads your glutes and hamstrings. For maximal hip activation, stop at around parallel and slowly push off the ground as if you were to drive the leg toward the floor, down and back. Fully lock the hips and the knees, extending on the way up. Definitely one of the best ways to build functional glute strength. That's gonna carry you and help you push off, get up from the couch and hike up a mountain. This one's also great for stability and balance as it is a unilateral single leg exercise, fixing muscle imbalances and deficits that develop with time. Then the last one is single leg deadlift heavy ball pickup, and although the name sounds complex, The point of this is doing a single leg deadlift in a way that you would be able to pick up a heavy object from the ground. So, in a way, translating the strength that you've gained or the muscles that you've gained through your hip extension exercises, translating into real life movements. So, using your hips to lift the heavy objects on a single leg and throw it off. I'd pick a 10 to 20 kilogram ball, place it between my feet, lower down just as I would during a single leg deadlift, descending slowly. If I'll need, I'll flex the knee, grip the ball, positioning my hands underneath. I test for vacuum, check to have if I have enough pressure not to allow a gap between the ball and my hands. This is so that when I explode, the force doesn't fall on the spine or the hips, but the force I generate is directly translated on the ball that I'll lift. Then I tighten my core, focus on the front leg, and push off strongly from the ground to lift the ball and throw it over my shoulder with a complete hip activation. The real effect takes place when you fully extend through the hip, almost in a way as if you were to finish a full step, pushing off the ground using your hip. This teaches you to fully push off with the leg when stepping up, lengthening your stride, and preventing compensation in the low back or knee joints further. Training like this translates into real life movements, teaching you the ability to pick up heavy things from your hips and not your back. The extra complexity adds another layer to your knowledge base of movement, which is sort of like an upgrade, a step up to the deadlift you already do.